Good evening. My name is Professor Jody Levitt, and I am with Purdue Global. I am a full-time faculty. I'm also one of the advisors for the Public Safety Club. I'm very happy to have you with session 2 of our Public Safety Research and Writing series, featuring Matt Stevens, Director of Library Services since 2011. He will be presenting on the Purdue Global Library, and this session is multifaceted. It aims to share the many resources and essential services that the library has to offer that can significantly enhance your academic journey in the public safety program. We have many topics, and some of them include specialized research databases, as well as tips on conducting research searches, accessing scholarly articles and ebooks, criminal justice and public safety resource guides, and available catalogs for specific safety courses, public safety courses. Please join us tonight, and we will explore how most effectively we use these offerings to support your studies and make the most of your college experience. And without further ado, Matt Stevens, Director of Library Services, thank you so much. And I pass it on to you.
Well, thank you for that great introduction, and thanks everybody for taking the time to come in tonight and spend some time hearing about the library. For some of you, there might be a little bit of review. For some of you, it might be totally new. Either way, whether you're just starting out, never set foot, never even looked at the library, or whether you visit us several times, hopefully this will be useful for you in one way or another. So one of the things I wanted to start with, and then I'll mostly be screen sharing and going through examples, both on the library homepage and using EBSCO Discovery, our primary search tool, as well as digging into research guides the staff have made and examples from there. But I did want to talk a little bit about just generally the library. And with the Purdue Global Library being entirely online, we really do basically what you would find at a physical library. So we have librarians. We're a staff of 3. So there's myself and then Lori Bastian and Laura Merrick. And we provide all sorts of services to our students. So that includes both curating and creating and hosting content for you to find, and then also helping you find that content. So we have professional content in the form of journals, books, videos, newspapers, all that sort of thing. Things you would think you would find in a library. We have an all-in-one search point called EBSCO Discovery. We have a document delivery service. So if we don't have the article you're looking for, which happens, we have a certain amount of content, and but we have a good system set up to where if there's an article you need, we're almost always able to get that for you, usually within a day and sometimes same day. And then we also have a university archive where we've increasingly been hosting student work. Now that does include this area, but an adjacent area, psychology students, they host their thesis there. Doctoral students host their content there, and professors sometimes host their content there as well. In terms of services, we have librarian research assistants. So that is email, chat, and one-on-one video consultations that you can schedule. We also have course and topic guides, as Jody mentioned before, and training tutorials and videos, and a searchable support FAQ. So that kind of gives you an idea. Basically, we have content, and then we have things on how to find that content. And those are the 2 things. Now, this is a little bit of shameless self-promotion, but I get asked, do people use the library? Do students use the library? And the answer is yes. You all do use the library quite a bit. We get over 2 million downloads a year. Some years we hit 3 million. And we do a satisfaction survey once per term per year. So you probably have seen it once a year. And maybe you haven't gotten it yet if you just started. But if you've been here over a year, you've probably seen it. And over 90% of students say they're satisfied or greatly satisfied with services. So, and this is a screenshot. We have a new system to help track how people are using our resources. And you can see A lot of the popular resources are the ones we're going to talk about. So that's EBSCO, ProQuest, Westlaw, maybe Hunt Online if we have time. Now, if you've just started, everything's new to you, and that's just the way it is. But if you were here before November, you've probably seen a lot of changes. And actually, we've been making even background changes before that over the past year. So, the library is not stagnant. We really try to improve it as often as we can. And we've added, within the last couple of years, new databases, new video content, ebook content, a lot of ebooks. Um, I have to download a list for reporting, and I think it's 700 MB, which is a very big Excel sheet. So sometimes it crashes when I'm trying to sort through it. We have what's called libkey, which you might have seen when trying to click an article from EBSCO. It helps you locate the article in an external source. We just added 2 months ago new Elsevier journals, about 24 journals across a variety of topics there. We've expanded recently chat and email help. Chat is now available 24/7. We use a after hours cooperative of librarians actually internationally. Most of them are US based, but occasionally somebody, especially if it's midnight, they might be from the UK helping. And we also now answer emails on the weekend, so we answer on Saturdays as well. And then in November, we added a new authentication system, which is way better. Like it's a lot less problems using that one. Updated the discovery search, so the main search engine for the site, and then just updated the website in general. And if you want to start a search, the way most people start a search is the big way, which is what we're going to start with, and then we're going to go towards the library guides and specific sources in there. But to start with, I thought it would be good to start with the one most people use, which is EBSCO Discovery. And you can start that search either from our homepage, which is the picture in the top left here, or you can, it's the search box embedded at the beginning of every library guide. If you go to More Tools Library, it's the first thing that shows up there. And then you can also go directly to it if you want to bookmark library.purdueglobal.edu/search. It'll just bring you straight to its own native interface. And so with that, I am going to go to library homepage. And you'll have to forgive me, the one of the toolbars is, oh, there we go. It was hiding my tabs. Now, while I'm going over this, feel free to enter questions into the chat, and then I'll try to get to them as fast as I can. If I miss your question, you can always email me directly. My email is mstevens, it looks like mstevons. I can't tell you the family history on that. That's just the way we spell it. And it's weird, but that's the way it is. You can email me there, or you can just email the library@purdueglobal.edu as well. Or if you're on our homepage, there's a email button, chat button, and then you can search our FAQ there at the top of every page. There's also this Ask Us tab that's right there. So if you forget anything in this, which I might be going over a lot, that's okay. You don't need to remember everything, but just know there's a lot of instant notes between our guides and instant help if you click the Ask Us tab. And here you can get a response by email, and I'll bring you to a form. You can fill that out. And then we've got the chat button, click chat right there. And then you can also book an appointment. And so this is showing, how we do that, and, time slots still available. And if you click through that, you can then enter your name, and we'll actually talk to you through Zoom as well. So let's start with a search. One of the assignments we get asked about is public opinion on criminal justice professionals, or public opinion on law enforcement and everything. So we're going to start with that. I thought it'd be a good example. We'll do a number of different examples, but I thought that would be a good one to start with. I believe this is a CJ 100. I think this is Unit 6. I think it's a Unit 6 essay assignment. So if you happen to be taking that class, hopefully this is helpful. But you can start a search just by typing in here. Now, I did something that you don't always have to, and maybe we didn't have to on this one. But I put in quotation marks around specific phrases. That just helps the database understand that I want that exact phrase. So anytime you want an exact phrase, you know this is the exact thing, just put quotation marks around it. And the fun thing is I use this all the time in Google as well. And you can kind of see a difference there. So, if we tried Google Scholar instead, and comparing results, I can go without it here, or if I add the quotation marks back, it tightens up the results. So you can kind of see a difference there. And you can see the same difference searching in here. Now, I just showed that on Google just to show you, you can use it externally as well when doing a search, but it's the same thing here. A lot of times you can go without it, but it's a useful trick. The other options you have immediately on the homepage are title and author. Author, I'll be honest, you're probably not going to use that very often unless there's just a specific person you really want to find. But title can be helpful in something that's a lot has been published on it. It'll only search the titles of the content available. So it'll only search the titles of books and titles of articles. And that's important to know because if we're thinking about how this EBSCO discovery searches, it searches the titles, but it also searches the subjects and it searches the abstracts. So if I click view details for this article, which might not be the best one, but I'm just clicking on it. Well, that one's just got the record there. Look at this guy. Well, basically anything on the detailed record page, that's what it's going to search. So for articles where just the title and subject and authors fields are available, this is what it knows and this is what it's going to search. And then if it has the full text available, so if it's hosted by EBSCO, let me try to find one. A lot of these, there we go. It's always great when EBSCO points at other content, but in this particular example, I want to find something hosted by them. So if it's hosted by them, it'll actually search the entire article as well. And it'll search the abstract. Here we go, finally, the abstract. And sometimes there's references listed, so it'll search through those if that's available within the record. But basically anything in this record it'll search. And in the case of their EBSCO content that's hosted by them, it'll search that. So that's why sometimes you don't need the quotation marks. Sometimes you do. I tend to just do them automatically out of habit. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, maybe you're thinking, Matt, this is kind of forest for the trees. I think that's a really fundamental thing. So that's why I wanted to come off, tip number one, there you go. That's something that I always point at people if they're wanting to tighten up their results. Now, if I'm going through, there's a few ways to open things. So sometimes there's a direct connection to an external source. So you're in one interface, so I'm on the Purdue Global Library and I click Access Options. And this is going to be a record from Hein Online. I'm sweating a little bit here because I realized I didn't click on this particular one before, but thankfully it opened up. So we've got it opened here and I can read the entire article. I can download it. I can also, in Hein Online, skip through the issue here. But basically, I've gone from one thing to another thing. And some folks find this a little jarring at first, but the library purchases and licenses and subscribes to content from a number of publishers and vendors. And not all of them have agreed to be on the same interface, unfortunately. So sometimes you'll find something, this is great, and it's going to kick you to an external site. And sometimes within the case of Hein Online, that's something we subscribe to. But sometimes it'll also kick you to something that's open access. It's on the internet. So it's searching so in EBSCO Discovery, sometimes it can ask, what is this searching? Okay, it's searching everything in EBSCO, and it's searching everything it knows about from all of our other subscriptions, and it's searching all of the open access content, the free content, scholarly content online that it knows about. So it's a pretty healthy chunk of information. And by default, if you look at the top here, You notice full text is in blue. Well, that's because it's already selected. So it's limiting the search to only content you immediately have available to you. Now, if you ever are, it's a really hard topic, you're having a hard time finding something, you want to search outside that content, you can just click this, and then it'll expand the results beyond what is in the PG library. And if there's anything we don't have, and it looks like so far, oh, here we go. So whenever it says access options, that means we have it. If we click view details, that means we don't, and then we'll have the option usually to uh, request it through interlibrary loan. But in this case, it seems like most of the content we actually have. So, there you go. But basically, you will get an interlibrary loan form for most of it if we don't have it, if you want to do that. But for CJ 100, 101, and even up through 300, a lot of times I would recommend not doing that. At least I would do that as a last resort because assignments are due every week, and usually you want something as quick as possible. And while we try to get those document delivery requests to you within a day, and again, sometimes same day, it doesn't always, sometimes it needs a little longer than that, or your assignments due that night. So I would always, if you're finding a lot, you can't open some stuff, make sure that full text button is selected and it didn't accidentally get unclicked. So that's my second tip is, pay attention to these boxes up here, second tip. And continuing that second tip, well, actually, let me get back to opening stuff and then we'll look at that stuff. So, sometimes the content is hosted externally, and we saw that here. I think this is an internal one, yeah. So, there we go. Oh, that one's from mine online too. So let's see. Let's say this article is very interesting. I'll go back up to here. I was trying to find a better example, but I'll keep it here. So if I want to read more about the article, I can click on the title, and then I'll show me the rest of the citation information and the abstract. You want to read this before, if it's available, and it's available for most EBSCO hosted content, and a lot of external content. Sometimes the online citations are a little scant, as we saw, but in this case, it's there. I highly recommend reading it before you read the rest of the article or bother opening it, because this will tell you, is this even something worth my time? And if I want to open it, then I can click the PDF option or the online full text option. So the PDF option looks like how it was published, and I can download it as a PDF file to my computer. Or if I go back and click the other one, online full text, it kind of looks like a transcript of it. So this looks like sort of a web page transcript of the article. And depending on the article, it might have one or the other, or in this case, both. So that's when you're still in the same. If I'm like, I don't like this article, I'm going to back out. There's that back arrow I just clicked. I clicked forward, so it's right here. But you can also just click the back arrow on your browser. That's fine too. And then get back to your content. Now back to now that we've opened a few things and kind of seen the difference between, well, why does it open in another interface and why does it stay in the same? So now we kind of hopefully understand that a little bit better. Stuff hosted by EBSCO stays in, stuff hosted externally opens elsewhere. Now let's take advantage of these tools here at the top. So if I want to get scholarly peer-reviewed research, which isn't always the case, but sometimes we're either required by the assignment or there's enough written about it and we want to read the best literature we can about it. So peer-reviewed is when there's other ways to explain this, but and more in-depth ways to explain it, but as simply as I can, peer-reviewed is when the author researches the article, writes the article, sends it to the journal, and the journal sends it to a panel of experts to review before publication. And usually they will send feedback about the article and before publication. So there's a whole process there where basically it has then been peer reviewed before acceptance and publication in there. So the idea there is that it's a higher level of information than you might get from a newspaper article, which, maybe was looked over by an editor, but it's written very, very quickly and it's just sort of describing what's happening then. Peer-reviewed research, it's going to be written about the existing body of knowledge. It's going to assume you already know that. And it's going to write, finding gaps and adding to that body of knowledge. So a new peer-reviewed article is always adding to the body of knowledge. It's not just usually repeating what's already there. So that's why you always want to find it, and you're going to find more recent stuff there compared to a book. Another thing we could do is click all time, and you can then, there's 3 quick options. There's more options when we go to the all filter area. But if I, want to limit to the past 5 years, I can very quickly do that. And we've now seen, just by limiting it to scholarly and peer reviewed, and within the last 5 years, we've cut our sources down from 89,000 to 9,000. 9,000 still alive. We're not going to read all 9,000. We're probably not even going to look at the titles of all 9,000. But it is, like we're cutting it down closer and closer to maybe what we need. And if I wanted to, I might have enough. In the past 12 months, we can see, that brings us down to 1,200. Now, source type here is going to be limited mostly to academic journals because we've already clicked the peer-reviewed option. But we'll do some other searches where we take advantage of this option and some of the other options in all filters. So that's basically kind of a general search for this. Now, if I want to, I can click advanced search. And I did that a little fast, so I'm going to go back. So this is the basic search. I hate the word basic search. It makes it sound like it's lesser. It's really not. But it's the simpler search, most Google-like search. But if I click advanced, which is over on the right corner, and it's also way back on our homepage. If you're like, I love advanced search, I just want to start there all the time, it's linked to right below the search box there. You can open that up. Now, why would I want to do this? This looks like a lot of boxes. It's already giving me a headache. Well, it'll allow me to kind of divide my terms up a little bit and then search for them in specific fields. Now, if you're already feeling like this is too much, that's okay. Just know you can use the basic search and some of the tips there. But one of the things I like about diving into the advanced search pages, once I start typing, it's really good about adding suggestions. So it's like, oh, you know what? I want to add all these phrases. And if I look at public opinion here, it's like, you know what? I do want to add attitudes or beliefs or perception or even stigma. I like all these terms. And the reason it types or between them is because by default, whenever you type in something in EBSCO, and this is true of any other search engine and somewhat of Google too, if I type in criminal justice, what it's actually doing is criminal and justice. So it's searching for both words, and it automatically does that for me. I don't have to ever type in and ever, but that's what it's doing. So I'm saying I want the words criminal and justice in this search. They could be next to each other, or they could be far away. Well, that's where the quotation marks come in that I started with. That means, well, I want just this exact phrase. I'm going to leave that off. And so with the reason it's typing or between these is it's saying, I want public opinion or the word attitudes or the word beliefs or the word perception or the word stigma. And this is really handy if you feel like, these results are okay, but maybe I'm not using the right phrase. And so what I can do is either use the suggestions that come up, or if I can think of my own, type them in and type in the word or between them. And then from here, I can, let's say I'm going to limit that to title, and I'm going to say maybe these should be subject terms. And now I'm going to, not checked, peer reviewed for now. And so now it's searching, it's expanded my search because it's searching for way more terms than I did before. But it's going to limit those to the fields I selected. And then, maybe that's going to tighten my results a little bit, and maybe, some of these look a little better, and now I want to click into them and then read more about them. So that's kind of like why the advanced search exists. I would say most of the time, you can start with a basic search and or the default search, I guess, and then you can go to advanced search if you want to take advantage of some of those extra fields there. And the nice thing about this is you're seeing I'm clicking around a lot. That's because if you type in something and it doesn't come up right, a librarian is not going to pop up from behind your monitor and laugh. The database isn't going to crash. If you get zero or you get too much stuff, it's not really about what you want, just try again. The new version of EBSCO is a lot quicker than the old version. And even though the other version wasn't that slow, but I can just really go in, change, what I'm trying to get. I can even limit to the abstract, so there's a description of the article. Maybe I'll do that for both, and I can see, I have the previous one where they were both on title was 150, now 2000. So it's got a lot of options there. So that's my basic search in EBSCO. Now let's switch to another topic. I kind of thought this one was interesting, and I think it's CJ 101, but it might be 100. There's a segment about the Lindbergh, I think it's 101. There's a segment about the Lindbergh baby kidnapping. And you can type that in to start. And I thought this was a good example because compared to some of our other topics, this has what's called a research starter. And a lot of times if you type in something really like a almost like a noun, if you type in nouns and proper nouns and names of events, a lot of times a research starter will come up, and these are really helpful because it's an encyclopedia entry right there for you. So it's kind of like getting a Wikipedia article, but from a more authoritative single scholarly source, about, well, what happened here? What are the basics? And those are really helpful because they'll give me the full name. So it's like, oh, you know what? That's right. His name was Charles Lindbergh. Maybe I want to add that to my search. Oh, it looks like there was a whole ransom and manhunt involved. Okay. And then there's a trial, and then there's the impact of the trial, and then there's a bibliography. Sometimes we have this content, sometimes not, but it'll kind of give you an idea of what's available there and kind of shows you that they put in their own research, the fact that it's so well cited. And so now these results look pretty good already, but let's say, I feel like I need to tighten them up. I can actually add that in there. And then there we go. And so now I've got an article directly about this, and I can click access now as we saw before. And then there we go. Now, if I want to download this article, again, I can click download. That'll bring a pop-up window where I can save it to my computer. For a lot of content, there's actually a listen option, and I can listen to it. I'm not going to click it right now, but it will actually use a plugin here to just read the content to me. And I can also cite the article. It's got quotation marks there. And APA is always an example. So basically, I've transitioned from searching for content, and now we're going to talk a little about what to do with the content. So we can download it, we can listen to it a lot of the time if it's in EBSCO, and then if it's hosted by EBSCO. And we can also cite it. We click those quotation marks, and it's got a reference here. Now, this one, most of them need a little help. So we can see, and I'm going to zoom in. But the thing is, it's always like 80% of the way there. And so I always feel like it's a huge time saver. So even if you're like, I got to edit this, well, it's mostly there. So in this one, it looks like I need to put these in lowercase. Lindbergh's proper nouns, so we leave that uppercase, but the titles of articles, we have to make them in lowercase if it's not a proper noun. So I would do that there. We also don't need the ISSN. The journal is called New American, but we can delete that. ISSN is like an ISBN for a book. And if you don't know what that is, basically, if you look on the back of a book, there's an ISBN code and there's a barcode and a bunch of numbers. There's basically the same thing for journals to kind of help librarians and researchers find them. So we don't need that. We can delete that. But if we do those two things, done. That's it. We got a pretty good citation, and we can copy and paste that into Word. All right, let's zoom back out. So also in the toolbar is a share option. So if you have to share something with fellow students, let's say in a discussion board, you can click that and copy there. You used to not be able to do this, but actually these links work a lot better now, and they're way more persistent. The most persistent link is this one, but usually you can get away with copying the link from the title bar. Used to not be able to do that before November. Now you can. And there's also a print option, which I'm not going to click on. You can imagine I click print and my printer comes up, and then I yell at my printer, I unplug it, I plug it back in, and eventually it spits it out. What I want to focus on though is this save option. If the percent thing will get out of my way. There we go. It looks like a little bookmark. Now, if I click on that, it'll give me this little message, and it says it's added my content. Well, what does that mean? Well, I'm going to go back to the initial search screen here, and what I can do is I can click on saved, and then that'll show anything I've recently saved. Now, most of the time, it should sign you in automatically. Occasionally, it'll forget, especially since I think I had this browser open for quite a long time in preparation for this presentation. But when you initially use it, it should just automatically remember you. But if it ever does it, basically you click My Apps, go to the top corner, and it'll say your name. And now you'll know it recognizes you, and it'll automatically save the content. So now, and you shouldn't have to click that like I just did. If you do, you don't have to enter anything like I just did. It just sort of brings you in. But most of the time, it'll just automatically remember. And now you can see all the stuff I've sort of saved over time. So this is stuff I've saved sometimes months ago. And if I want to get back to the content, now it's in the saved folder, and I can just get there. Another option is it says add to project. So it's a little folder with a plus sign. And that'll allow me to add it to an existing project or a new one. And so I can say CJ 101, and let's say the due date is this Friday. And I'm going to write a note about what this assignment's about. And so now if I go to projects on the left, I'll be able to click CJ 101, and then there we go, I've got my article. So there's a lot of ways to save your content. You can either save it to your hard drive, or you can email it to yourself. I mean, there's I think that was in one of the share options I didn't mention. I mentioned the link because we get asked about that with discussion boards, but you can immediately save it to Google Drive or OneDrive, or there's an email option. You can email it to yourself. There's really, yes, Alexandria, there's no losing articles. You can just go in there, save it, you're good. And you can, again, you can either create projects on your hard drive, or you can create project folders within EBSCO now too, and save the content there. So really helpful tools. It won't save all of your searches. You do have to like save the search to come back to it. But it'll show you recent ones, and then and you can kind of like get back to those. So you can see it's got my search and actually lists all my filters. So I can go, you know what? If I was going back on all those searches about public opinion, I could say, you know what? I want to go back to that first one. I don't want to do the ones where I was doing title and subject and all that fancy stuff. I want to go back to that one. I can click it, and it loads it. So really cool stuff, really helpful things. There's a few other doodads to the left. I'm not going to go over all of them, but one of them is publications. If you're ever told like the title of a book and you really want to know if we have it, I didn't grab one before here, so sorry about that. So I'm just going to type in a topic. So if you know the title of a journal, title of a book, and actually a title of a video, you can type that in, it'll come up, and you can then limit to that type of content there. So that's, it won't search articles, but it searches the journals and the newspapers the articles are in, and it'll search for book terms, as I mentioned. You can also click more sources. this will lead to other databases. So if I want to quickly get from EBSCO to ProQuest, I can either go back to the library homepage and other featured resources. I can click some of the content here and get a description. Or I can find a guide, which we're about to get into, or one of the quick links, or I can click, oh, I need more articles. I'm going to click scholarly articles, and then I'm going to get the recommended databases at the top. And then a full database is A to Z list of any database with articles in it below. So there's lots of ways for me to get to other content, including guides that I'm about to show. But that's another way too. You can click supplementary material. And then that's about it. The last thing I just want to show about, and I'm going to do a really simple search because I want to have the most content available. And we see that research starter again with this one. So like I was saying before, if you type in a noun, it'll show you these like encyclopedia articles at first, before getting into the rest of the content. There's this source type. And so if I click source type, it'll show me the top 5 most populated ones. So in this case, news, academic journals, magazines, ebooks, trade publications. I can also click more, and then I can see everything here. So let's say I actually want to find a video. I actually limit to video. And then see, it looks like we've got 653 videos about this. Let's say this one looks cool. I didn't even read the title. I'm just clicking an example. But it says, what's this called? The View from Law Enforcement. So I'm going to click access options like with everything else, and then click video. And then it will open up, in this case, Alexander Street, and I'm able to play that video. Now, one of the reasons I did this was because sometimes we get asked how to link to video content in the library, or really how to link to any content in a discussion board or a presentation or something like that. A lot of these tools, the symbols, they won't always look the same, but they're there. So in the case of EBSCO, if we want to remind ourselves, the share tool, it's kind of this swishy arrow, going to the right. In Alexander Street, cite quotation marks, but the share tool is this weird, it almost looks like a superhero logo. To be honest, I don't know why. Many websites use this. I don't know its origins. Maybe it's because it's going from one person to many points. So you might be sharing it with many people. But it's like a circle with 2 lines. So it's like an open triangle. And then you can go in here and you can find a link to it. Now, sometimes I would use this link, is probably the best one looking at these options, but you can find that embed code, and then you can copy the link and share it in the classroom. And in the case of the embed code, it'll actually keep it in iframe, and if whatever you're pasting to supports HTML, it'll actually put it in there, which is pretty neat. So, and if everything sounded like gibberish then about HTML and iframes and copying code in there, don't worry about it. It's cool. But if there's a tool available in the classroom or somewhere you want to embed it in, that lets you do that. So basically, the idea is no matter where EBSCO shoots you over to, or leaps you over to, or pushes you over to, where you want to use, those options are typically available. Or I think at the beginning we kept running into Hide Online, options. Hide Online has those same tools. It's got a download tool. It's got a share link tool. You just have to look for them, but they're there. It's just the symbols are different, and I know that can be a little much at first. But for criminal justice, public safety, the interfaces you're going to be using are EBSCO and ProQuest for the most part. So let's actually open ProQuest. ProQuest looks like this. It's kind of a second library within the library. It includes books. Well, actually, you can read it from here. If you don't want to remember, it's got scholarly journals, books, videos, dissertations and theses, news. I would say, so with EBSCO, it knows most of the content in here. But ProQuest and EBSCO are kind of like Coke and Pepsi. They don't always share everything with each other. So you can usually find scholarly journals that are in ProQuest. You'll find them in the EBSCO results typically. But news is one of ProQuest's strengths, and dissertations and theses is one of its strengths. Otherwise, book content will always show up in EBSCO, and most scholarly journals will. You might find a few unique ones, but it's really news and those other types. So if I'm interested in those, I might come in and, maybe I want to search for, ethics in criminal justice. So I can, which we get asked about. So I type that in, and then here we go. It's bringing me content with those appearing. Like in EBSCO, it'll highlight, EBSCO highlight in yellow, ProQuest highlights in blue, where your terms show up and so on. So this is actually, it looks like a book. If I wanted to read that, I just click it. And if it looks interesting to me, or maybe I want to find a specific chapter, I can do that and go to it. So, but like I was saying before, it's got the same tools. It just looks different because they're different products. But I've got those same download, print, link. They use a chain link icon because, of course, they need their own unique one. And then I can copy that link and share it elsewhere. So, and they have different tools available there. Zoom in, zoom out, things like that. So, kind of same stuff, but just different. So that's, and the thing is, it might seem like a lot at first, but it's really only a few interfaces you'll be using. So that's what I was trying to get at. Once you get familiar with EBSCO, and then once you get familiar with ProQuest, that's most of what you're going to spend your time in. But if you do find yourself behind the line or another one, don't worry. A lot of tools are the same. So that's, and think of it this way. I think a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm going to the library, so it should be one cohesive thing. And as we've discovered, it's not. But if we go to Scholar, and I'm actually going to, so if I do like, ethical issues in criminal justice, I'm doing a search here. It's also going to be opening stuff up in a different interface. So, so if I, click on here, well, now it's bringing me to Google Books for that one. If I click on this one, let's find out, okay, it brings me to the Wiley website. So, just kind of think of it that way and it'll be a little less jarring. I think we're all used to clicking on Google and then finding a new website. Hopefully that brings the intimidation factor a little bit down. The library is really working kind of like it's almost like a closed circuit internet. So it's just content that we have license to, plus some open access stuff elsewhere. But it's kind of like a specific set and content type in there versus everything with Google and websites and YouTube and whatnot that you might find there. Now, in the case of Google Scholar, does anybody use Google Scholar? Do we have any? I bring this up because sometimes people are super fans, so I just want to make sure. And they really prefer the, okay, we got some, cool. I just want to show that if you use it, if you go into settings, there's actually this library links option. If you click on that and search for Purdue Global, and you can see I've already selected it. Maybe I'll deselect it so I can show you guys. Or show y'all, I mean. Well, it doesn't want to forget. It knows I but anyway, if you go there and search for Purdue Global, I've already selected it, so it's not going to show me the access option. But if I do that, it'll show it. And basically, when you're doing a search, and I think we saw some examples here. If you look to the right, you'll see this find full text at PG. If you click on that, it'll then bring you to the full text. So it'll show you whatever's in the library, but from Google, which is handy for anybody that likes it. Personally, I think EBSCO is good enough and ProQuest is good enough, more than good enough. I mean, I think they're highly competitive and just as good as Scholar. But I don't know. So some people like what they like, and they're used to it, and that's what they've been doing. And I don't blame them for it. So we try to support wherever anybody's searching. All right. So that's that. So what I'm going to end with is navigating some guides and showing you kind of the examples there, and maybe we'll click into a few other resources too and do a little bit more searching. If you go into your classroom, and this is CJ 100, as we can see, you go to more tools and then library. Library is always the third one down. So it's in the exact same spot in every course you will take. So it's if you've already taken CM 107, it's there, or 220, or some of the other courses that are external to criminal justice and public safety. It's there too. But the ones, especially for CJ 100, 101, and some of the earlier ones, Lori Bastian on my team has worked with Jody specifically, but with a lot. So thank you for being so enthusiastic and helping with these and inspiring them. But also, other faculty to create these like really in-depth guides. And so a lot of them go down to the unit. So we can see, there's unit 2 discussion help. I had some of these already kind of pre-opened. So let's say you're working on your unit 2 discussion. You can click on that, and then it's got, hey, here's some keywords you can use, and here's some sources you can try out. And this even has some specific titles. So it's like, maybe you want to click into that and search just within that title. And if I scroll on down, it's got 2 video options, Alexander Street and Films on Demand, and a specific database within ProQuest, ProQuest Criminal Justice. So I've got a lot of options here. So let's say I'm going to use this law enforcement media portrayal. Let's go in here. Now, I've already seen this interface when I clicked on the link to ProQuest before, but this is just searching one sliver of ProQuest. So the general ProQuest link from the library homepage is searching all 40 of their 40 plus databases at the same time. This one is just searching, it's kind of like criminal justice content. And sometimes that's really helpful, and sometimes it's too narrow. So it really depends on the topic. If you feel like you're swimming when you go into EBSCO or the general ProQuest link, and you're kind of like, there's just too much, like 200,000 results is too much. Try a specific database like ProQuest Criminal Justice. It can kind of limit it so it's more just about the content in that area, because it's a criminal justice database. It's not going to have so much like business content or nursing content or the other areas that we have a lot of. It's just narrowed in on that. So it's very useful if you feel like from the homepage you're getting too much. And so we see here, I'm able to open that right up. And but I've otherwise got these same tools that I had on the general ProQuest search. And EBSCO puts their filter tools on the top. ProQuest puts them on the left. So let's say I want to limit to peer-reviewed or scholarly journals. I can click on that option, and it'll limit to it there. So basically it allows you to do that when you go into the you can hear me forming a sentence just now. I apologize for that in my brain. It will come out of my mouth eventually. So when you look at the library resource guides, and like the library resource guide for CJ 100, what it allows you to do is give you kind of a jump start, and then you can see, oh, okay, now I have an idea of where I want to start and the things I want to start in, but that doesn't mean they're the only things you can use. They're just suggestions. So it's like, if I really want to find, video content, here's a suggestion. But as we saw before, we could also, if we really prefer EBSCO Discovery, we can go there, so we can take those keyword suggestions, and then actually, let's stick to this one. I can take those keyword suggestions, go back to the homepage. So before I get into this, the specific suggestions, and I can actually use that box at the top, and it is the same box from our homepage as the EBSCO Discovery interface. So, so we try to put the main search tool wherever you are, but also where suggested and where it really helps, we'll also suggest the specific databases where it's like, why don't you check this out? And a lot of the specific databases, if you look underneath the search box here, we've got a list, major research databases. We've got some recommended web links that we reference a lot. And we've even got the book collections here. So if you really want to find some book titles there, you can go there. Um, and so all that's, just to say, if you're like, how do I remember all this stuff that happened in this session? There's a lot of instant notes here. And again, you can get to it by going to more tools, library, and then it'll pop up. And again, you can click on, I think it was Unit 6 assignment help. Yeah, so that's where I got the public opinion thing. So that was the very first search I started with. That's because I was looking through the guides and I thought, okay, that'd make a nice example. Um, library resources for CJ 100, Unit 6. And then here we go. And it not only has that suggestion, but also some other ones and some alike terms to try out. And in this case, it even has a book spotlight. So sometimes Lori likes to pop these in. Which she wanted to be here tonight. I didn't want to steal her thunder and claim all this for me. She worked very hard on these. But this presentation at the last minute, her vacation plans changed at the last minute. So hopefully you understand her need to take a little time off in the summer. But hopefully I'm doing her justice talking about these. Another thing too, I want to highlight not just the unit and discussion assignment help, but required readings will also be here. So if you have a reading required from the library, it will list it here. And we're hoping to have that for every course by the end of next June. So basically 12 months from now, we've got a project going on with our great curriculum team here, and we're hoping to fill in the gaps. We already have 400 of these, maybe even 500 now, but so if you do have an assigned reading and you're like, I'm having a hard time finding this, check the library guide. And not only for CJ courses and public safety courses, but check it for your other ones too. More often than not, you'll find a guide there with all the links you need to get the content. And then now that we're familiar with the tools, you know now how to bookmark and save that content and share that content so you can get to it later. So I think that's pretty much wrapping up what I wanted to cover. I did want to cover one last thing, and that's finding cases. You don't have to do it a lot, I don't think, but you do have to do it some amount of time. So you don't have to find it as much as the paralegal group and the undergrad and grad legal studies group. But it is sometimes there. And the best place to find case law is Westlaw Campus Research. And that's on the homepage to any CJ guide. And it's also on the library homepage. If you go under featured resources, it's right here, along with ProQuest and Credo, which we might not get into. I don't think we'll have time to get into, but it's kind of like a Wikipedia, scholarly Wikipedia. It's similar to those research starters in EBSCO, but that's all it does. So if you want to find like a definition of something, definitely check out Credo. Let's go ahead and open up Westlaw here. Now, one case we get asked about, I was looking through our emails and actually asked Lori before she left if she gets asked about some specific things. There's apparently a murder involving a person named Peggy Petrick. And you can find articles about it externally, but if you want to find the actual case, you can type in words related to it. So in this case, I typed in the victim's name and the word murder, and it came up. So this is what the case is. It actually involves a person named Tim Masters. He's the plaintiff in the case. So I could find it just by typing in what I was told. Hey, find this trial about this person named Peggy Edrick. But if I knew the plaintiff involved, I could type in their name. So I could type in Timothy Masters if I knew that. That brings up the case. Or if I knew the kind of name of the case, I can also search for that. So basically what I'm trying to describe is once you're in Westlaw, there's a lot of options available to you to find that specific case. If it doesn't work by keyword, which it doesn't always, because maybe it's a very specific case, or maybe the names are too plain. So in this case, it was a unique name, so it brought up the case very quickly. But sometimes, if the last name is Smith, you might have to add some extra doing here. And if you happen to have the legal citation, you copy that in. But basically, there's a lot of ways to find the case. But once you do find the case, like we've seen with the other content, scroll down for the content. And there's options to save it, email it for later. Oh, I just thought of one trick because I think, yeah, sometimes, oh, no, it does that. Yeah, so it's got a download option. So if I click this, there you go. Sometimes I'm going to see if this works here. If I like to save PDFs to my computer. Sometimes if you click print on your computer, so if you go to File, Print, or in my case, or Control P or Command P if you're on a Mac, there's usually an option to save it as a PDF, and oftentimes this is a really quick way to get something. If you can't find the download tool, so this one's a little hidden. So if you're like, I can't find it, sometimes that's a quick way to get something too. So I just thought I'd show that as like a handy trick, in case you're trying to like quickly get something. But basically that's it. And then if I go, I'm going to search here again. If I look to the left in Westlaw, kind of like the other databases, there's other ways to filter. So if we remember back to EBSCO Discovery, we could limit to videos we saw, we could limit to books. In this case, it's legal material, so it's going to be more like regulations or secondary sources or briefs, or we've actually got proposed and adopted regulations and legislation. So if I want to click on that, so and it's anything that might be mentioning that case as well. So anyway, I'm not to beat a dead horse, but hopefully by showing you these examples repeatedly, you can see, oh, okay, I might go here for this, here for that, but at the end of the day, they all have a search box, they all have filters, and they all have ways to share. And I think if you know that going in, hopefully you'll be a bit more comfortable searching. And even if you're not sure where to click first, now you know there's specific, oftentimes assignment level help. And even if there's not assignment level help, there might be at a minimum the major databases list that you can limit your search to. And on nearly every page, there's that Ask Us tab. So bringing back to the beginning, I started with how to reach out to us, and I'm ending with how to reach out to us. You can click Ask Us, and again, you can click to email, click to chat, or book an appointment. And if we're not available, or you want to see if we have something, we have an FAQ. A lot of times we have like APA answers in here. So we have like, how to cite a secondary source in APA, and it'll link to, usually what we'll do is we'll link to a tutorial in Academic Writer, or a website explaining it in the case of this one. And I'll just note, hey, here's how to do that. So we got a lot of content for kind of self-information, or self-help, self-service, I should say, self-service information. Between the FAQs and the subject guides, as well as asynchronous and synchronous help one-on-one from a librarian. And that, I think, brings me to what I wanted to go over. So hopefully that was helpful. Again, if you do have any questions, I just gave you the how to contact us again. If there's something, if you scroll up in the chat, I've got my email there, but let's go ahead and type it in again. You can contact me directly if there was something, hey, I was in that session, what was that link again? Something like that, let me know. Yeah, I hope this was helpful. Jody, was there anything else you wanted me to go over that I didn't? Or any last questions?
No, I think that's great.
Okay, great. Well, I'll thank you again then, and hope to see you in the library. Take care all.